There comes a moment in every woman's life when the silence of walking alone becomes louder than the crowd she once depended on. It is in that silence that strength is born. It is in those quiet steps that she discovers she was never truly alone, because destiny has always been her companion. When a woman chooses to walk alone, she is not declaring weakness, she is declaring war on everything that tried to confine her. The road may seem empty, but it is rich with lessons. Every tear she sheds waters the ground of her future. Every step she takes writes a new chapter of her story. And every season of loneliness is not punishment, preparation. A woman who walks alone learns that her worth is not defined by who stands beside her, but by the power God placed within her. She realizes she doesn't need validation from the world to step into her calling. She understands that solitude is not isolation, it is elevation. Don't mistake her silence for weakness. Don't mistake her solitude for despair. She is being sharpened, refined, and transformed. Because when she rises, she will not rise as the same woman who walked into the valley. She will rise as a force, as a voice, as a testimony of strength. Woman who walks alone learns that her greatest power is not in what she lost, but in what she discovered inside herself. She learns that peace is priceless, purpose is powerful, and her faith will carry her where crowds never could. So if you find yourself walking alone today, hold your head high. Every lonely road leads to strength. Every step you take is shaping you. And one day, when you look back, you'll thank God for the season that taught you how powerful you truly are. There is a sacred strength that is only discovered in the quiet footsteps of a woman who dares to walk alone. When the noise of the world fades, when the support she thought she had is no longer present, when the friends she leaned on are nowhere to be found, she enters into a season that feels like solitude, but it is in that solitude that she meets herself, and more importantly, she meets the power of the God who walks beside her. Walking alone is never easy. It feels heavy. It feels isolating. It feels like you are misunderstood, appreciated, and unseen. But the truth is, when a woman walks alone, she is not being punished. She is being positioned. The silence is not rejection. It is redirection. The solitude is not abandonment, it is alignment. In that space, she discovers that she is stronger than she ever imagined. A woman who walks alone learns that she is not defined by who stands beside her, but by what lives inside her. The crowd can applaud you today and abandon you tomorrow, but the strength that rises from within can never be taken away. She begins to realize that her power is not in the opinions of others, not in the approval of people, not in the validation of a relationship, in the unshakable foundation of her identity. Many times, women are taught to measure themselves by who accepts them, who chooses them, who loves them. A woman who walks alone learns to measure herself by who she becomes in the absence of applause. She learns to sit with her own thoughts, to face her own fears, and to confront her own weaknesses. And in that confrontation, she discovers her power. It is in the lonely seasons that purpose begins to whisper. When distractions are stripped away, the inner voice of destiny speaks louder. That voice says, "You are capable, you are chosen, you are equipped, you are enough." A woman walking alone starts to see that her steps are ordered. Every tear she cries waters the ground for her breakthrough. Every lonely night prepares her for the dawn of a new season. Every rejection pushes her closer to the assignment she was born to fulfill. And let me tell you, walking alone doesn't mean walking without vision. In fact, it sharpens vision. When she is alone, she sees more clearly. She realizes who truly belongs in her life and who was only there for a season. She recognizes what she can survive without and what she cannot compromise. She understands that peace is priceless. Anything that costs her peace is too expensive. Alone, she learns endurance. Alone, she learns courage. Alone, she learns how to fight for herself when no one else is fighting for her. She learns that silence can be her strength and waiting can be her weapon. She learns that her power is not tied to her circumstances, but to her Creator. A woman who walks alone is not weak. She is being made into a warrior. Her walk is not a walk of shame, it is a walk of strength. Her solitude is not her downfall, it is her training ground. She may walk through valleys, those valleys teach her how to climb mountains. She may walk through deserts, but those deserts teach her how to find water in barren places. She may walk through storms, but those storms teach her how to command peace even when the winds are raging. The truth is, the road of loneliness has always been the birthplace of leaders, dreamers, and visionaries. A woman who walks alone discovers that she doesn't need a crowd to validate her. She doesn't need company to confirm her destiny. She doesn't need applause to know her worth. She learns that she is enough because God has made her enough. And when she finally rises from that season, she rises different. She rises stronger. She rises with a depth of character, a clarity of purpose, and a confidence that cannot be shaken. A woman who once questioned herself now knows herself. The woman who once depended on others now depends on God. The woman who once felt overlooked now shines so brightly that she cannot be ignored. Yes, walking alone hurts. Yes, it is uncomfortable. Yes, it will make you cry sometimes, but it is in that space of pain that transformation happens. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Gold is refined by fire. Warriors are made in battle. And a woman walking alone learns that her scars are not symbols of defeat, but reminders of survival. When she walks alone, she learns how to protect her peace. She learns how to guard her heart. She learns how to say no without guilt and yes without fear. She learns that she is not desperate for attention, not begging for affection, chasing validation, because she already carries within her everything she needs to thrive. When she embraces walking alone, she no longer fears being alone. She discovers joy in her own company. She finds peace in her own presence. She creates laughter from her own spirit. She realizes that she is not lonely. She is whole. She is not abandoned. She is becoming. So if you find yourself walking alone today, take courage. Do not despise the path you're on. Every step is shaping you. Every mile is molding you. Every moment is strengthening you. One day, you will look back at this season and thank God for it, because it was here that you discovered your true power. A woman who walks alone learns her power because she learns that power has always been inside her. She just needed the silence to hear it, the solitude to see it, the struggle to release it. And when she rises from this journey, she will rise unstoppable. There is a power that cannot be found in noise. There is a strength that cannot be discovered in the applause of people or in the business of life. True strength, lasting, shakable strength, is born in silence. It is in the quiet spaces, when distractions fade, when the noise of the world is muted, when a soul is left alone with itself and with God, that strength begins to rise. We live in a world addicted to noise. Constant conversations, endless scrolling, music playing, voices shouting, opinions flooding every corner. We are surrounded by noise that tries to fill every gap of silence. Strength is not built in the noise, it is discovered in the silence. Because in silence, truth speaks. In silence, clarity comes. In silence, resilience is forged. When everything around you goes quiet, that is the moment when you are forced to listen, not to the world, not to people, but to the still, small voice within. In silence, you begin to face yourself. You can no longer hide behind activity or escape into distraction. In silence, the masks come off. Pretenses fall away. And there, in that quiet space, you meet the raw, unpolished, vulnerable version of yourself. That is the moment when strength is born. Strength is not built in crowds, it is built in solitude. When the applause fades and the affirmation of others is gone, what remains is your inner foundation. The strongest people are not those who are surrounded by endless support, but those who have learned to stand when no one is clapping. Strength is born when you realize you don't need constant approval to keep moving forward. Silence is not empty. Silence is full of answers. Silence is where ideas are conceived. Silence is where purpose is revealed. Silence is where God whispers direction into the soul. And yet, silence is the very place we often run from. We fear it because silence makes us face what we've been trying to avoid. That confrontation is the birthplace of strength. Strength born in silence is different from strength born in noise. Noise strength is temporary. It depends on external energy. But silent strength is eternal. It is anchored in the spirit. Noise strength is fragile. One negative comment can break it. One betrayal can crush it. But silent strength is resilient. It has been tested in the dark, refined in stillness, and built to endure. When you sit in silence, you learn patience. You learn to wait without anxiety. You learn to endure without panic. You learn to trust without rushing. Strength born in silence teaches you that not every answer comes instantly. Not every problem resolves overnight. Every dream unfolds in a day. But the ability to sit quietly, to wait, to listen, and to remain still, that is where true power is cultivated. The world claps for boldness, but silence builds it. The world admires courage, but silence shapes it. The world praises wisdom, but silence teaches it. The very qualities that make a person unshakable are not developed in public. They are formed in private. What people see as strength on the outside is only the fruit of what was grown in the silence of the inside. Even nature testifies to this truth. Seeds grow in silence, roots go deep in silence. A child is formed in the quiet of the womb. Diamonds are created in the hidden pressure of the earth. Strength is always born away from the crowd, away from noise, away from attention. And when it finally reveals itself, it is unshakable because it was birthed in silence. Sometimes silence feels painful. It feels like isolation. It feels like emptiness. It is not emptiness. It is incubation. Silence is not a punishment. It is preparation. What you call loneliness is often the classroom of growth. What you call isolation is often the training ground of destiny. What you call waiting is often the season where strength is being formed inside you. There are battles you cannot fight in public. There are tears you cannot cry in front of everyone. There are lessons you cannot learn in the noise of the crowd. These things require silence, and in that silence you discover that you are stronger than you ever believed. You discover that you can endure more than you thought. You discover that you can survive storms without leaning on everything you once depended on. Strength born in silence makes you unmovable. It gives you peace that is not tied to circumstances. It gives you confidence that is not tied to people. It gives you courage that is not tied to applause. You become anchored in something deeper, something higher, something eternal. And once you carry that kind of strength, no storm can shake you, no criticism can break you, no betrayal can destroy you. When silence teaches you strength, you stop chasing noise. You stop needing constant validation. You stop fearing solitude. Instead, you embrace it. You welcome it. You realize that silence is not your enemy, it is your friend. Silence is not a void, it is a voice. Silence is not abandonment, it is alignment. And in that alignment, strength is born. So if you find yourself in a season of silence, don't run from it. Don't despise it. Don't misinterpret it. Understand that something is being built in you, something greater than what you see right now. Strength is being born. And when it finally shows itself, it will carry you further than noise ever could. Because strength born in silence is strength that lasts. It doesn't fade when the crowd leaves. It doesn't crumble when challenges come. It doesn't weaken when life grows hard. Instead, it endures, it carries, it sustains. And it whispers into your soul, you are stronger than you think. You are greater than you know. And you are ready for what is coming. One of the greatest discoveries you will ever make in life is this: validation is internal, not external. The world teaches us to chase after approval. From a young age, we are trained to seek someone else's nod of acceptance, someone else's words of affirmation, someone else's applause to tell us who we are and what we are worth. But true validation, the kind that sustains you and sets you free, does not come from outside voices. It comes from within. There is a danger in living for external validation. When you live for the applause of others, you will also die in their silence. When you depend on someone else's approval to feel significant, you hand them the power to control your joy. When their opinion shifts, so does your confidence. That is not freedom, that is bondage. But when you learn that validation is internal, you begin to live from a different place. You live from wholeness, not from need. You live from identity, not from insecurity. The truth is, people are inconsistent. One moment they will cheer for you, the next moment they will criticize you. Today they love you, tomorrow they forget you. If your worth depends on their voices, you will constantly feel like you're on shifting sand. When your worth is anchored in something deeper, in who you are, in the value you carry, in the purpose God has placed within you. You can stand firm no matter who applauds or who walks away. Validation that comes from within cannot be taken away. It is built on truth, not opinion. It is grounded in identity, not performance. It says, I am enough because I was created with purpose. I am worthy because I exist. I am valuable because of the strength, the gifts, and the light within me. This kind of validation is not loud, but it is unshakable. It is not dependent on the mood of others, but on the unchanging truth of your worth. Think about how many people exhaust themselves chasing validation. They dress to impress, not because they enjoy their style, but because they fear judgment. They overextend themselves in relationships, not because they want to, but because they are desperate for approval. They post and wait for likes. They speak and wait for claps. They work and wait for praise. And when it doesn't come, they feel invisible, unworthy, forgotten. Here's the reality. If you never validate yourself from the inside, no amount of validation from the outside will ever be enough. It is possible to have thousands of people cheering for you and still feel empty inside. It is possible to be admired, celebrated, even envied, and still go home at night feeling unseen. Because validation that comes from the outside can never fill the void of an unvalidated soul. Only internal validation can do that. Only when you decide within yourself, I am valuable, I am enough, I am whole, does the endless search finally end. When you live from internal validation, you stop comparing yourself to others. Comparison thrives when you're measuring your worth by external standards. When you know who you are, when you validate yourself from within, you can celebrate others without feeling threatened. You can admire their shine without questioning your own. You can walk confidently in your lane without trying to compete for someone else's applause. Internal validation gives you freedom, freedom to be authentic, freedom to make mistakes without collapsing in shame, freedom to take risks, knowing that failure doesn't diminish your value, freedom to walk away from toxic relationships that demand you to constantly prove yourself, freedom to rest in the assurance that even when no one notices, you still matter. And here is the paradox: when you stop living for external validation, that is often when true respect comes. Because people are drawn to those who know their worth. They are attracted to authenticity. They admire those who don't compromise their truth just to be accepted. And yet, even if they never admire you, you still stand. You still shine. You still rise because your validation has never been in their hands. Validation is internal because it begins with a choice to stop waiting for someone else to approve you and to approve yourself. A choice to silence the voices of criticism and amplify the voice of truth inside. A choice to look in the mirror and see not what the world sees, what you truly are, a masterpiece in progress, valuable and whole. And this doesn't mean arrogance. Internal validation is not pride, it is peace. It is not shouting, I don't need anyone. It is whispering, I already have enough within me to keep moving forward. It is not dismissing others. It is no longer dependent on them to tell you who you are. Some of the strongest, most impactful people in history were those who validated themselves when no one else did. They walked through seasons of rejection, ridicule, and loneliness. They carried an inner knowing that their worth was not up for debate. That inner validation gave them the strength to continue when no one believed, to rise when everyone doubted, and to shine when the world tried to dim their light. And you, too, must carry that same conviction. You may not always be celebrated. You may not always be understood. You may not always be chosen. You must know that your value does not decrease because someone else fails to see it. Gold does not become less valuable because someone throws it in the dirt. Diamonds do not lose their brilliance because someone fails to recognize them. You do not lose your worth because someone else overlooks you. When you anchor your validation within, you walk differently. You speak differently. You love differently. You stop performing and start living. You stop pretending and start being. You stop begging to be seen and start shining regardless of who notices. You become a steady light in a flickering world. So let this truth settle deep within you. Validation is internal, not external. No applause, no relationship, no title, no achievement can ever give you the worth that is already inside you. The world may never fully affirm you, People may never fully understand you. As long as you validate yourself, as long as you know your worth, as long as you walk in your truth, you will never be empty. There are seasons in life where you will not be surrounded by a crowd. You will not be cheered on by friends. You will not have the comfort of companionship. Instead, you will find yourself in a place of stillness, a place that feels hidden, a place that feels lonely. And it is in that very place where you feel cut off, separated, and isolated that the deepest transformation takes place. We often misunderstand isolation. We think it means abandonment. We assume it means rejection. We believe it means punishment. Isolation is not the absence of purpose. It is the workshop of purpose. Isolation is not where you are forgotten. It is where you are formed. Transformation does not happen in the spotlight. It happens in the shadows. Every great breakthrough is born in a season of separation. The butterfly does not emerge on the stage. It emerges in the cocoon. That cocoon is a place of isolation. Nobody sees the struggle inside it. Nobody applauds the process. Nobody celebrates the tearing, the stretching, the painful breaking that is happening within. But when the time comes, the butterfly emerges transformed, beautiful, and free. And so it is with you. Your cocoon season, your isolation, is not to destroy you, but to develop you. When you are in isolation, you learn things you could never learn in the crowd. The crowd distracts you, but silence reveals you. Crowd tells you who they think you are, but isolation teaches you who you really are. In isolation, you face yourself. You confront the weaknesses you've been hiding behind noise. You confront the fears you've been covering with activity. You confront the pain you've been masking with people. And in that confrontation, transformation begins. Transformation in isolation strips you of dependency. It detaches you from leaning on others to feel whole. It detaches you from needing constant validation to feel worthy. It detaches you from the noise of opinions so that you can hear the still, steady voice of truth. It is in isolation that you stop asking, "What do they say about me?" and start asking, "What is true about me?" Isolation is not glamorous. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't look attractive. It feels like silence. It feels like waiting. It feels like obscurity. But in obscurity, roots grow deep. Seeds are hidden in the soil long before they break the surface. No one claps for a root. No one admires a seed. No one takes pictures of the soil. But without that hidden process, there can never be fruit. Your isolation is your rooting season. It is where your foundation is being strengthened. Transformation requires stripping. Old habits, old ways of thinking, old versions of yourself cannot survive the journey to where you are going. And the stripping is painful. You will lose people. You will lose comfort. You will lose the things you thought you couldn't live without. But the truth is, everything that falls away in your season of isolation is not meant to go with you into your next season of transformation. Do not despise isolation. It is your classroom. It is your training ground. It is your refining fire. Just as gold must go through fire to be purified, you must go through isolation to be transformed. Fire burns away impurities. Isolation burns away distractions. Fire exposes what is real. Isolation exposes what is essential. Fire leaves you refined. Isolation leaves you transformed. Think of the greatest shifts in your life. Not one of them happened without some form of separation. A child grows in the isolation of the womb. Strength is built in the quiet of training before the race. Wisdom is gathered in the solitude of reflection. Every stage of transformation is preceded by isolation. While isolation feels like the end, it is actually the beginning. While it feels like you are being cut off, you are actually being set apart. While it feels like you are being broken, you are actually being built. Transformation cannot happen where you are comfortable. It happens in the unfamiliar, the unseen, and the uncomfortable. Many resist isolation because they fear being alone. They fear the silence. They fear the lack of affirmation. But if you can endure the season of isolation, you will emerge with a strength that cannot be shaken, a clarity that cannot be clouded, and a purpose that cannot be stopped. When transformation happens in isolation, you stop living as a prisoner of other people's opinions. You stop begging for places you've outgrown. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces you were never meant to stay in. You begin to understand that being hidden for a season is not being forgotten. It is being prepared. And when the preparation is complete, Transformation will speak for itself. You won't have to announce it. You won't have to explain it. You won't have to convince anyone of it. The fruit of your growth will be undeniable. The shift in your character will be visible. The change in your strength will be unshakable. The transformation that was born in isolation will shine in manifestation. So if you are in a season of isolation, do not run from it. Do not despise it. Do not waste it. Lean into it. Learn from it. Allow it to do its work. Because transformation is happening in ways you cannot see. Growth is taking place in depths you cannot measure. Strength is being built in silence. And one day, soon, you will emerge not the same person who went in, but a version of yourself that is wiser, stronger, deeper, and unrecognizably transformed. Isolation is not the end of your story. It is the birthplace of your next chapter. The butterfly is proof that isolation is not death, but life in disguise. Seeds are proof that isolation is not burying, but planting. And your life will be proof that transformation happens not in the noise of the crowd, but in the quiet of isolation. There comes a time in every life when the road narrows, when the crowd disappears, when the people you thought would walk with you cannot go any further. It is in those seasons that you find yourself walking alone. At first, it feels like loss. At first, it feels like rejection. At first, it feels like punishment. But the truth is, walking alone is not a curse. It is a calling, because walking alone leads to power. Power is never born in the comfort of the crowd. Power is never discovered when everyone is holding your hand. True power is uncovered in the moments when you have nothing but your faith, your grit, your determination, and your God to carry you forward. When you walk alone, you strip away the noise, the distractions, the pretenses, and you discover the strength that has been inside you all along. Walking alone teaches you resilience. It teaches you that you can survive without constant applause. Teaches you that you can endure without the validation of others. It teaches you that your purpose is not dependent on the size of your company, on the size of your conviction. When you walk alone, you begin to realize that the things you thought you couldn't live without were never the source of your strength. The world tells you that power comes from influence, from status, from having a following. But real power, the kind that lasts, comes from solitude, from conviction, from knowing who you are when no one else is around. Walking alone forces you to meet yourself. It forces you to face your weaknesses and confront your fears. And in that confrontation, something begins to shift. Courage rises. Clarity appears. Vision becomes sharper. It is not in the crowd that leaders are made. It is in the wilderness. It is not in the applause that warriors are forged. It is in the silence of lonely battles. It is not in the comfort of company that power is born. It is in the solitude of self-discovery. Every person who has ever carried true influence walked through a season of loneliness where they had to discover that power is an inside job. When you walk alone, you stop leaning on others to define you. You stop waiting for someone else to approve you. You stop shrinking to fit into places that were never meant for you. And suddenly you realize that your steps are stronger, your voice is louder, your spirit is bolder. Walking alone pulls the power out of you that comfort would have kept buried. Walking alone also teaches you discernment. When you are surrounded by noise, it is hard to tell which voices matter. But when you are alone, the unnecessary fades and the essential becomes clear. You begin to hear the voice of truth more clearly. You begin to feel the pull of destiny more strongly. You begin to recognize that not everyone can walk with you because not everyone is assigned to your journey. Some people are seasonal. Your calling is eternal. There is pain in walking alone, yes. There are nights of questioning. There are days of doubt. There are moments of tears. Do not mistake the pain for punishment. The pain is the stretching of growth. The tears are the water of transformation. The doubt is the pressure that forces faith to rise. Walking alone does not weaken you. It sharpens you. It chisels away everything that does not belong and reveals the strength that was hidden within you. Walking alone is where you discover that peace is better than company, that clarity is better than noise, that purpose is better than popularity. It is in those solitary steps that you realize you are not really alone at all because the God who called you, the destiny that guides you, and the strength that sustains you have been walking with you every step of the way. And when you come out of that season, you do not come out the same. You come out stronger. You come out more focused. You come out with a power that cannot be faked and cannot be shaken. People will look at you and wonder how you survived, how you endured, how you kept walking when no one was with you. And the answer will be simple. Walking alone led you to power. There is a freedom in walking alone that many will never experience. It frees you from dependency, frees you from people-pleasing. It frees you from living your life to fit someone else's expectations. It frees you to stand in your truth, to own your worth, to embrace your calling. Walking alone leads to power because it leads to freedom, the kind of freedom that no one can take away. So if you find yourself in a season where you are walking alone, do not despise it. Do not curse it. Do not fear it. Embrace it. Lean into it. Understand that this path is shaping you. It is preparing you. It is strengthening you. Every step you take in solitude is a step into power. Every mile you walk in silence is a mile closer to purpose. Every moment you endure in isolation is a moment that is making you unshakable.